Good morrow, scholars. Welcome again to Shiver. I was going to say something, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, we are in chapter 35, Sam, 49 degrees Fahrenheit, page 227. If I remember, I will just blurt it out randomly in the video. After the sci-fi flick ended, the world was saved, but the civilian casualties were high. I sat with Grace at the little breakfast table near the door to the deck and watched her do her homework for a while. I was unimaginably tired. Did I say that right? I don't know. I didn't feel like it. I'm tired too, actually. The colder weather gnawed at me like an ache, even when it couldn't get a tight enough grip to change me, and I would have liked to crawl into Grace's bed or onto the couch for a nap. But the wolf side of me felt restless and unable to sleep with the unfamiliar people around. So, to keep myself awake, I left Grace downstairs doing her homework in the dying light. I like that game. From the windows and went upstairs to see the studio. It was easy to find. There were only 2 doors in the hallway upstairs, and an orange chemical smell wafted out from one of them. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and blinked. The entire room was brilliantly lit by lamps fitted with bulbs meant to mimic natural light. I need some of those. Miga wants to use them for filming. Anyway. And the effect was a cross between a desert at noon and a Walmart. Pulls me back in every time. Anyway. The walls were hidden behind towering canvases that leaned against every available surface. Gorgeous riots of color, realistic figures and unrealistic poses, normal shapes and abnormal colors, the unexpected in ordinary places. The paintings were like falling into a dream where everything you know is presented in an unfamiliar way. Oh, I forgot that there are lyrics. Anything's possible in this slush rabbit hole. Is it mirror or portrait you've given to me? All of these permutations of dreams will patrol this lovely wasteland of color I see. Anyway, I stood before 2 larger-than-life paintings leaning against one of the walls. Both were of a man kissing a woman's neck. Whoa. One was shot through poses identical but colors radically different. There we go. One was shot through with reds and purples. It was bright, ugly, commercial. The other was dark, blue, lavender, hard to read, understated and lovely. It reminded me of kissing Grace in the bookstore. How she felt in my arms, warm and real. Remind me to feed Iggy when I'm done. Which one do you like? Her mom's voice sounded bright and approachable. I imagined it as her gallery voice, the one she used to lure viewers as wallets into sight so that she could shoot them. What? I tilted my head toward the blue one. No contest. Really? She sounded genuinely surprised. No one has ever said that before. That one's much more popular. She stepped into my view so that I could see that she was pointing at the red one. I've sold hundreds of prints of it. It's very pretty, I said kindly, and she laughed. It's hideous. Do you know what they're called? She pointed to the blue one, then the red one. Love and lust. I smiled at her. Guess I failed my testosterone test, didn't I? Because you chose love? I don't think so, but that's just me. Grace told me it was stupid of me to paint the same thing twice. She said his eyes are too close together in both of them anyway. I grinned. Sounds like something she would say. But she's not an artist. Her mouth twisted into a rueful shape. No, she's very practical. I don't know where she got that from. I walked slowly to the next set of paintings. Wildlife walking through clothing racks, deer perched on high-rise windows. That'd be weird. Fish peering up through storm drains. That disappoints you. Oh, no, no. Grace is just Grace, and you just have to take her the way she is. She hung back, letting me look. Years of good sales, training, and subconscious practice. And I suppose you'll have an easier time in life because you'll get a nice normal job and be good and stable. I didn't look at her when I answered. Methinks the mom doth protest too much. I heard her sigh. I guess everyone wants their kid to turn out like them. All Grace cares about is numbers and books and the way things work. It's hard for me to understand her, and vice versa. Yes, but you're an artist, aren't you? You must be. I shrugged. I had noticed a guitar case sitting close to the door of her studio, and I was itching to find chords for some of the tunes in my head. Not with paint. I play a little guitar. There was a long pause as she watched me looking at a painting of a fox peering out from beneath a parked car, and then she said, "Do you wear contacts?" Sorry. I've been asked the question so many times that I didn't even wonder anymore how much nerve it had to ask it. Sorry. Nope. I'm having terrible painter's block right now. I would love to do a quick study of you. That sounds disturbing. She laughed. It was a very self-conscious sound. That's why I was ogling, I don't know. You downstairs. I didn't get enough sleep. Where was I? You downstairs. I just thought it would make an amazing color study. Your black hair and your eyes. You remind me of the wolves in our woods. Did Grace tell you about them? My body stiffened. It felt too close, like she was prying, especially after the run-in with Olivia. My immediate wolfish instinct was to bolt, tear down the stairs, rip open the door, and melt into the safety of the trees. It took me several long moments to battle the desire to run and convince myself that she couldn't possibly know, and that I was reading too much into her words. Another long moment to realize that I had been standing for too long, not saying anything. Oh, I didn't mean to make it awkward for you. Her words tumbled over each other. You don't have to sit for me. I know some people feel really self-conscious, and you probably want to be getting back downstairs to Grace. I felt obliged to make up for my rudeness. No, that's okay. I mean, I do feel sort of self-conscious about it. Can I do something while you paint me? I mean, so I don't have to just sit there and stare off into space? She literally ran over to her easel. I don't like the use of literally. It's used too much. Anyway. No, of course not. Why don't you play the guitar? Oh, this is going to be great. Thank you. You can just sit over there, under those lights. While I retrieved the guitar case. I don't feel like I'm saying that right. She ran across her studio several more times, getting a chair for me, adjusting the spotlights, and draping a yellow sheet to reflect golden light on one side of my face. Do I have to try to stay still? She waved a paintbrush at me, as if that would answer my question, then propped a new canvas against her easel and squeezed globs, black paint onto a palette. No, just play away. Sorry, I just thought about it. I had spray paint can around here somewhere. It's not important. So I tuned the guitar, and I sat there in the golden light and played and hummed the songs under my breath, thinking of all the times I had sat on Beck's couch and played songs for the pack. of Paul playing his guitar with me, us singing harmonies. In the background I heard the scrape of the palette knife and the woof of the brush on the canvas, and wondered what she was doing with my face while I wasn't paying attention. "I can hear you humming," she said. "Do you sing?" I grunted, still finger-pricking idly. Her brush never ceased moving. "Are those your songs?" Yup. Have you written one for Grace? I had written 1,000 songs for Grace. Yes. I'd like to hear it. I didn't stop playing, just modulated carefully into a major key. For the first time this year, I sang out loud. It was the happiest tune I'd ever written, and the simplest. I don't know if I want to... I'm self-conscious. I'll come back later. Oh well. I fell for her in summer, my lovely summer girl. I'm not a singer, so, deal with it. From summer she is made, my lovely summer girl. I'd love to spend a winter with my lovely summer girl, but I'm never warm enough for my lovely summer girl. It's summer when she smiles. I'm laughing like a child. It's the summer of our lives. We'll contain it for a while. She holds the heat, the breeze of summer in the circle of her hand. I'd be happy with the summer if that's all we ever had. She looked at me. I don't know what to say. She showed me her arm. I have goosebumps. I set the guitar down carefully so the strings wouldn't make any sound. Suddenly it seemed very pressing to spend my moments, so precious and numbered, with Grace. And in the moment I made that decision, there was a terrific crash from downstairs. It was so loud and so wrong that for a moment her mother and I just frowned at each other as if we couldn't believe that the sound had happened. Then there was the scream. Right after I heard a snarl and was out of the room before I could hear any more. Chapter 36. Sam. 49 degrees Fahrenheit. I remembered Shelby's face when she asked, "Would you like to see my scars?" "From what?" I replied. "From when I was attacked. From the wolves." "No." She showed me anyway. Her belly was lumpy with scar tissue that disappeared under her bra. It looked like hamburger after they bit me. I didn't want to know. Shelby didn't pull her shirt back down. I'm uncomfortable. It must be awful when we kill something. It must be the worst way to die. I think immolation would be up there. Chapter 37. A riot of sensations assaulted me as soon as I got into the living room. Viciously cold air stung my eyes and twisted my stomach. My eyes quickly found the ragged hole in the door to the back deck. Partially cracked glass hung precariously in the frame, and thin pink-stained shards lay all over the floor, winking light back up to me. The chair at the breakfast nook was knocked over. It looked like someone had splattered red paint on the floor. Endless erratic shapes dropped and smeared from the door to the kitchen. Then I smelled Shelby. For a moment I stood there, frozen by the absence of Grace. Get off me. There's a fly in my room. Where was I? Frozen by the absence of Grace and the frigid air and the stench of blood and wet fur. Sam! It had to be Grace, though her voice sounded strange and unrecognizable. Someone pretending to be Grace. I scrambled, slipping in spots of blood, gripping the door jamb, to pull myself into the kitchen. The scene was surreal in the pleasant light of the kitchen. Bloody paw prints pointed the direction to where Shelby shook and twisted. Grace pinned to the cupboards. Do you guys remember this movie way back in the day when I was a little boy? The Indian in the Cupboard. Grace was struggling, kicking, but Shelby was massive and reeked of adrenaline. I saw a flash of pain in Grace's eyes, honest and wide, before Shelby jerked her body away. I'd seen this image before. I didn't feel cold anymore. I saw an iron skillet sitting on the stove and grabbed it. My arm ached with the weight of it. I didn't want to hit Grace. I smashed it on Shelby's hip. Shelby snarled back at me, teeth snapping together. We didn't have to speak the same language to know what she was telling me. Stay back. An image filled my field of vision, clear, perfect, riveting. Grace lying on the kitchen floor, flopping, dying, while Shelby watched. I was paralyzed by this clarion picture and dropped into my thoughts. This is how it must have felt when I showed Grace the image of the golden wood. It felt like a razor-sharp memory, a memory of Grace gasping for breath. Sorry. I dropped the skillet and threw myself at Shelby. I found her muzzle where she was clamped onto Grace's arm. I felt back to her jaw. Pressing my fingers into the tender skin, I jammed upward into her windpipe until Shelby yelped. Her grip loosened enough for me to push off the cabinets with my feet and roll her off Grace. We scrambled across the floor, her nails clicking and scraping on the tile, and my shoes squeaking and slipping in the blood she dripped. She snarled beneath me, furious, snapping at my face, but stopping short of biting me. The image of Grace, lifeless on the floor, just kept going through my head. I remembered snapping chicken bones. In my mind, I could see perfectly what it would look like to kill Shelby. She jerked away from me, out of my hands, as if she'd read my thoughts. "Dad, no, watch out," Grace shouted. A gun exploded, I hope not, close by. For a brief moment, time stood still. Not really still. It sort of danced and shimmered in place. The lights flickered and dimming before reappearing. If that moment had been a real thing, it would have been a butterfly, flapping and fluttering toward the sun. Shelby fell out of my grip, a dead weight, and I fell back into the cabinets behind me. Or was I? She was dead, or at least close, because she was jerking, but all I could seem to think about was how I'd made a mess of the kitchen floor. I just stared at the white squares of linoleum. I always have a tough time with that word. My eyes following the streaky lines my shoes had made through the blood, and finding the one red paw print in the center of the kitchen that had somehow been perfectly preserved. I couldn't figure out how I could smell the blood so strongly. And then I looked down at my shaking arms and saw the red smeared on my hands and over my wrists. I had to struggle to remember that it was Shelby's blood. She was dead. This was her blood, not mine. Hers. My parents counted backward, slowly, and the blood welled up from my veins. I was going to throw up. I was ice. "We have to move him." The girl's voice was piercingly loud in the silence. "Get him someplace warm. I'm all right. Just help me move him." Their voices tore into my head, too loud and too many. I sensed movement all around me, their bodies and my skin whirling and spinning, but deep inside me there was a part that held completely still. Grace. I held on to that one name. If I kept it in my head, I would be okay. Grace. I was shaking. My skin was peeling away. Grace. My bones squeezed, pinched, and pressed against my muscles. Grace. Her eyes held me even after I stopped feeling her fingers gripping my arms. "Sam," she said, "don't go." Let's see. One more. Chapter 38. Grace, 38 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, just checking. Who could do that to a child? Mom made a face. I wasn't sure if the face was because of what I just told her or because of the antiseptic smell of the hospital. I shrugged and wriggled uncomfortably on the hospital bed. I didn't really need to be here. The gash on my arm hadn't even needed stitches. I just wanted to see Sam. "So he's really messed up then?" Mom frowned at the television above the hospital bed, though it was turned off. She didn't wait for me to respond. Well, of course he is. He would have to be. You don't live through that without being messed up. Poor kid, he looked like he was really in pain. I hoped Mom would quit babbling about this by the time Sam was done talking to the nurse. I didn't want to think about the curve of his shoulders, the unnatural shape that his body had formed in response to the cold. And I hoped Sam would understand why I told Mom about his parents. Her knowing about them had to be better than her knowing about the wolves. I told you, Mom, it really bothers him to remember. Of course he freaked out when he saw the blood on his arms. It's classical conditioning, or whatever they call it. Google it. Mom squeezed her arms around herself. If he hadn't been there, though. Yes, I would have died, blah, blah, blah. But he was there. Why is everyone more worked up about this than I am? Many of Shelby's teeth marks had already become ugly bruises instead, though I didn't heal nearly as quickly as Sam had when he was shot. Because you have no survival instinct, Grace. You're like a tank. You just chug along, thinking nothing can stop you, until you meet up with a bigger tank. Are you sure you want to go out with someone with that kind of history? Mom seemed to warm to her theory. He could have a psychotic break. I read that people get those when they're 28. He could be almost normal and then suddenly go slasher. I mean, you know I've never told you what to do with your life before now, but what if I asked you not to see him? I hadn't expected that. My voice was brittle. I would say that by virtue of your not acting parental up until this point, you've relinquished your ability to wield any power now. Sam and I are together. It's not an option. Mom threw her hands up as if trying to stop the Grace tank from running her over. Okay, fine. Just be careful, okay? Whatever. I'm going to go get a drink. I need a drink. And just like that, her parental energies were expended. She had played Mom by driving us to the hospital, watching the nurse tend to my wounds, and warning me off my psychotic boyfriend. And now she was done. It was obvious I was going to live, so she was off duty. A few minutes after she'd left, the door clicked open, and Sam came to the side of my bed, looking pale and tired under the greenish lights. What? Tired? Okay. Tired, but human. What did they do to you? I asked. His mouth quirked into a smile completely without humor. Gave me a bandage for a cut that was healed since they put it on. What did you tell her? He glanced around for Mom. I told her about your parents and said that's what was wrong with you. She believed me. It's cool. Are you all right? Are you... I wasn't sure what I was asking. Finally I said, Dad said she was dead. Shelby. I guess she couldn't heal like you did. It was too fast. Sam laid his palms on either side of my neck and kissed me. He pressed his forehead against mine so that we were staring at each other, and it looked like he had only one eye. Have you ever done that? I'm going to hell. What? His one eye blinked, because I should be feeling bad about her being dead. I pulled back so I could see his expression. It was strangely empty. I wasn't sure what to say in light of that information, but Sam saved me by taking my hands and squeezing them tightly. I know I should be upset right now, but I just feel like I've dodged this huge missile. I didn't change, you're all right, and for the moment, she's just one less thing for me to worry about. I feel drunk. Mom thinks you're damaged goods, I told him. Sam kissed me again, closed his eyes for a moment, and then kissed me a third time, lightly. I am. Do you want to run away? I didn't know if he meant from the hospital or from him. Mr. Roth, a nurse appeared in the doorway. You can stay in here, but you should sit down for this. Like me, Sam had to get a series of rabies shots, standard hospital procedure for unprovoked animal attacks. It wasn't like we could tell the staff that Sam knew the animal personally and that said animal had been homicidal, not rabid. Well, I guess you could. I shuffled over to make room for Sam, who sat beside me with an uneasy glance toward the syringe in the nurse's hands. "Don't look at the needle," the nurse advised as she pushed up his bloody sleeve. "Why not move it? Change it. There we go." With rubber-gloved hands, Sam looked away to my face, but his eyes were distant and unfocused. His mind somewhere else as the nurse stuck the needle into his skin. As I watched her depress the syringe, I fantasized that it was a cure for Sam. Liquid summer injected right into his veins. Whoa, getting dizzy. There was a knock on the door and another nurse stuck her face in. "Brenda, are you done?" the second nurse asked. "I think they need you in 302. There's a girl going crazy in there." "Oh, wonderful," Brenda said, with deep sarcasm. "You two are done." To me, she said, "I'll get your paperwork to your mom when I'm done." "Thanks," Sam said, and took my hand. Together we walked down the hall, and for a strange moment it felt like the first night we'd met. Like no time at all had passed. "How long has it been?" "Wait," I said as we passed through the emergency room waiting area, and Sam let me pull him to a halt. I squinted across the busy room, but the woman I thought I'd seen was gone. "Who are you looking for?" "Get off me." "I thought I saw Olivia's mom." I squinted across the waiting room again, but there were only unfamiliar faces. I saw Sam's nostrils flare and his eyebrows draw a little closer to his eyes, but he didn't say anything as we made our way to the glass hospital doors. Outside, Mom had already pulled the car up to the curb, not knowing what a favor she had done for Sam. Beyond the car, tiny snowflakes swirled, and the cold delicately embodied what? Sam's eyes were on the trees on the other side of the parking lot, barely visible in the streetlights. I wondered if he was thinking about the deadly chill that seeped through the cracks in the door, or about Shelby's broken body that would never be human again, or if, like me, he was still thinking about that imaginary syringe full of liquid summer. Well, that was depressing. On the plus side, I finally got the yellow lightsaber that I wanted, although it's turning this pale gold color now. But that's not a bad thing. And then look at this. Anyway, what was I going to say? I look orange now. Oh no. Alright. That's enough goofing off, I suppose. Let me know what you guys thought of the chapters. This episode, I suppose. I'm sad. Oddly enough. I mean, I get that she was berserk and everything, but that's still sad. Anyway, I'm gonna get some water. Gonna get Iggy some water. I'm gonna feed the turtles, and then I'm gonna read Witch and Wizard. So until next time, goodbye, everybody. I feel like there's something else I was gonna say.